Hello everyone, welcome to the new edition of Spot and Forwards in LFMA. As you all know, we have the upcoming parliament elections in June here for the EU, and we are introducing each candidate from any political party representing themselves. So my name is Adrian Biondi from GFI in Luxembourg SA, and I'm introducing Mr. Fernand Kartheiser of the ADR. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to that. Well, as you told already our audience, my name is Fernand Kartheiser. I'm the lead candidate of the ADR party, which is the Conservative Party here in Luxembourg. We are members of the European Conservative Party, ECR. Well, my background is I'm father of two, which is already very important. I have two adult sons. And my non-political job, my last non-political job that I was doing, I was a career diplomat in the Luxembourgish diplomatic service for more than 20 years. I was, among others, ambassador to Greece, so I had a lot of interesting tasks. And before that, I was a military officer, so you see. But I have, over the years, acquired also some experience with economic affairs, and I'm very, very delighted to be here today and to discuss with you exactly on economic and financial matters.
The consensus in the media is that Europe currently lacks leadership and that the European Commission is looking to step into the vacuum. Do you agree? And if so, what does this imply, if anything, for the Parliament?
Well, yes, I think that indeed Europe lacks leadership. When I look at the situation that we had over the last years, I think that is quite evident. You remember maybe that Jean Monnet told us that Europe is going to be formed in crisis situation, and Europe, what will come out of this crisis is Europe, and Europe will evolve through crisis. But now, when we look at what happened over the last years, we had a lot of trouble. We had certainly not a lack of crises, we had too many of them, but they have not been well managed. If you look at the COVID, the medical crisis that we had, it ended up now in a lot of in suspicions about corruption in the European Union. If you look at the Ukraine situation in which we are going to face a lost war, and there's a lot of tension inside the European Union because we don't really know how to deal with this situation and what will be the conclusions that we have to draw. So if you look at these situations, also maybe the climate crisis, what it is called the climate crisis, also there, if the remedy that was suggested was the green transition. And you see that the green transition is also meeting with a lot of resistance, and you have only to remind you of the farmer protest that we have now recently. So I think that we have to see and to realize that the European Union has not succeeded in transforming challenges, in transforming crises to a new start, to a new dynamism. And in addition, you know, if you look at the European Union, there's a lack of consensus, there's no clear vision. There's no clear vision about what the European Union shall be in the future, how it should develop itself. We have clear divisions even in the public opinion, whether we should have a stronger federal structure or maybe more power for the member states. So we don't know what kind of attitude we should develop towards Russia in the future after the war. There are a lot of divisions, a lot of discussions, and indeed in this situation we would need the European Commission or the larger member states taking the leadership, but we have nobody who is able to rally support in the European Union, certainly not Mr. Macron, Mr. Scholz, certainly not Mrs. von der Leyen. So we are confronted to a situation where we have a lot of problems, a lot of difficult situations where we would need a vision for the future, know how the European Union should develop, but we have no such leaders for the moment. Maybe after the elections, that is what we are hoping for, certainly.
The EU split over the Commission's proposal to issue European defence bonds, similar to COVID bonds in the past, to pay for aid to Ukraine. Do you see the COVID bonds a one-off, as some EU members insist, or should European bonds be used to boost capital investment, as others propose?
My party, ADR, is a conservative party, and we are very much in favor of a sound management of public finance. We are opposed to a debt policy, and bonds, however you would like to call them, defense bonds, COVID bonds, green bonds, you can call them whatever you wish. The truth is it's debt. and they have to be reimbursed at some time. And we have a clear-cut provision in the treaties of the European Union, if I remember correctly, is Article 311 of the functioning of the European Union, which prohibits contracting debts. The treaty says that the European Union shall be financed through own resources, not going to financial markets, not issuing bonds or whatever. And we have the problem already now, because during the crisis we have contracted debts. We are also thinking of having even more debts because of the Ukraine situation. And we don't know how to reimburse those debts. The socialists, for instance, as they always do, they suggest to contract even more debts to reimburse the ones that we have already been committing a few years ago. So we are in a situation where we very clearly, at least my party, very clearly insist that we should not go to issuing bonds or to going to financial markets, but to try to have a clear and sound management of the EU finances. So through the budget. And the budget in the European Union has also a clear rule. It should not go over 1% of gross national product, cumulated gross national product of the EU member states. Those are the rules, and we want to respect the rules. So no defense bonds, no COVID bonds, no bonds whatsoever, no debts, but sound management of public finance.
Looking at service sectors, do you agree that Europe should integrate the markets for services to help firms grow, reward innovation and replace some lost manufacturing jobs?
Yes, you see, this question is basically about what is the relationship between political institutions and economic actors. And it's a very old discussion. You have the choice whether the flag should follow trade or whether trade should follow the flag. I mean, that's a really old discussion. But we think that in European Union matters, in European Union economic policy, the flag should follow the trade, meaning that the Commission, the Parliament and the Council should listen to the actors in the field, to the economic actors, because they know best what Europe needs in the economic field to recover, to be strong also in comparison to our competitors. We are in Europe, we are very good at instituting, at creating new rules. We are maybe, we have an enormous bureaucracy. We are over-regulated as compared to our competitors, and we should change our mentalities and become much more dynamic than we are for the moment. And this has a number of implications, but the basic rule is that we should commit ourselves to take up the challenges that we are facing, because the United States are perhaps more attractive for investment, so we have to create capital markets here in Europe that are able to face those challenges. We have China, which is much more industrialized, and we have deficiencies in Europe in the whole industrial sector that we have noticed during the COVID crisis. For instance, we have a deficit in pharmaceutical industries and in other industries. So we have to pick up those challenges, face the United States competition on the financial markets, face Chinese competition in industries, get a new dynamism, and in order to achieve good results, we have to listen to the actors in the field. So what we have to do as politicians is to coordinate not only among institutions, but mainly to listen to the economic actors, to have a dialogue with them and to follow their advice.
How do you see the governments, the Commission and the European Parliament best interacting with private sector to meet the investment challenges inherent to Europe's green transition?
Well, let me tell you that I'm a little bit skeptical about this green transition. So we have to be very careful. The green transition is something that, of course, it has many different aspects, but we must also there be conscious that what is suggested is for us a problem in many different fields. Just to cite an example, energy. If we go to alternative energies, we know that they are expensive, that they are not reliable, they are volatile, and that they are not sufficient to meet all our needs in energy supply. I think that we should be open for remaining, at least to a large part, because we have to remain open to fossil fuels, and we should not say no to nuclear energy. We know that the European Commission, for instance, has classified fossil fuels and nuclear energy, gas and nuclear energy, as green energies, and the Luxembourgish government is very much opposing this. We are not opposing it. I think we should be technology open. We are also not in favor of forbidding the internal combustion engine in cars. Why should we? I mean, everybody should remain completely free to choose whatever motor he considers to be the best for his own needs. So green transition means also a lot of pressure on farmers because these reduction aims that have been fixed are perhaps overambitious. What we need, of course, is a global reduction of carbon dioxide emissions, but that can be reached in other ways. What we suggest is to invest heavily in making existing coal plants in the third world more efficient. There are many plants in the third world that produce a lot of energy and producing at the same time tremendous amounts of carbon dioxide emissions. We want to reduce that and make it an economic model. So we go there, we renovate, we make it more efficient, and we have less carbon dioxide emissions. And those reductions we should also be allowed to have in our own emission schedule, so that these are to our benefit also. So it is an investment project. Let me finish perhaps by saying that we are also opposed to taxation. We are opposed to very expensive emission trading schemes. We are opposed to carbon dioxide taxes. All this is a very old-fashioned way to approach the problematic, a very bureaucratic way to approach that problem. What we want is to transform the carbon dioxide emission into an economic model to the benefit of all of us.
Final and last question. Can you explain to our audience why they should vote for you?
Yes. I think that probably also for the economic actors, ADR has simply the best ideas. This doesn't sound modest, I know, but for us, the economic sector is a partner, not an enemy. I think that is a clear difference between us and others. We are very much in favor of open markets, of free trade, and we want to get rid of bureaucracy and unnecessary restraints for the economic sector. We are also generally a party which is in favor of freedom. Freedom, personal freedom, freedom for the enterprises, freedom for our societies, and we want to assure a peaceful environment for our country and good trade relations with other states and other economic organizations. So for the European Union, also with other regional economic organizations. So it's an attitude which is, I think, quite typical for conservative parties, friendly to economic actors, against bureaucracy. We should be a country and the European Union which helps enterprises achieving their goals. And I think that the financial market, knowing as a Luxembourger how important it is, we have to take special care of the interest of the financial market. There are a lot of challenges there in the fund industry, in surveillance mechanisms, in tax competition with Ireland and others, in agreements that we have to conclude with the United States and others. And we want to take care of all this in order to help promoting a sound environment for our companies here in Luxembourg.
And on that note, I thank you very much on the behalf of the LFMA, Mr. Fernand, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming election.
Well, thank you very much. I think that we need a lot of luck, and thank you for this interesting quarter of an hour that we had the occasion to be together. I'm looking forward to meeting you again, and hope also that all our audience is going to have excellent times and goes voting, because it's very important to vote also on election day, 9th of June.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.